Good morning. I am Erika. I am head of QA at Calendly. I've been there for about 2 years. My journey started as well, gosh, I was actually not going to go into tech. I was in school for poli-sci. I was going to be a lawyer. Yes, I was going to be there with you. I wanted to be in family law. and my journey went a little different. I graduated when I was 16 years old, and I was accepted to Hampton University. And I had these grand dreams of going off to college at 16. And after I got accepted to several colleges, all of them out of state, my mother said, "I'm sorry, what were you thinking?" And said I was not going to college out of state. I was devastated. So I wound up going to a local college for a little while and then shifted and came out to Atlanta um, because I was running away, I guess. I was kind of running away. I was running to my dad instead of staying with my mom, who I was heartbroken because I couldn't go to Hampton or any of the colleges out of state. And so I came out here and I got into tech. Tech had always been something that I had been naturally good at. I've always taken computer classes. I was always tinkering around with something, and it was an easy thing for me. And so I got into the industry. I got into help desk and then desk side support and just servicing computers in general. And then when the computer industry, when web really started to take over and hit, when people would ask me what I do, I'd say I work on computers, and say, "You build websites?" And they say, "No, I work on computers. It's a completely different thing." When that conversation kept coming up, I decided I need to teach myself how to build websites. And so I did that. I sat down, I learned how to build websites. I learned HTML, I learned JavaScript, and I continued to learn. And I jumped in and I became an application developer. I learned classic ASP. When .NET rolled out, I was at an advertising company, and my architect went on sabbatical like he did every single year. And the client said, "We're expecting movement on this project." So I had to learn .NET. And I had already taken an architecture certification, so I understood the foundation. But I had to jump in, and I built the foundational framework for the application. And when the architect came back, I was so nervous because I just knew he was going to tell me that we had to throw the whole thing out and it was awful. And he was like, "This is great. This is great. We're going to be able to move forward with this." And that's when I knew. I was like, "You know what? I can do this." But during that season, during that time, I started to move to lean in more towards leadership. But in the midst of that journey, and at that company that I was at for 8 years, I struggled a lot with men coming into the organization. They kept hiring men in these senior roles, and they would look at me, the only woman and the only Black woman in the entire department, um, and I was nothing. It was they would bring them in. They would have arrogance. I remember there was a time when there was a conversation, and I was talking to somebody. I was overheard speaking to work that I was doing, and one of the developers accidentally sent a IM message before Slack was the thing, Yahoo IM message, and he accidentally sent it to me, but he meant to send it to somebody else about me. And he was like, "Oh, woe is her. She has so much work to do. Poor Erica." So these were that has been like my journey of dealing, unfortunately, with men in the tech space. Has been, I've had to prove my worth and prove my voice, and prove out my choices, right? Like when I started to really lean into leadership and move away from the hands-on development, I still had to prove that worth. But that journey continued, and those are things that I overcame. But they were things that at times held me back in my career, held me back personally. Imposter syndrome, all of those things that we've dealt with. But in spite of that, I have continued to thrive, and I moved into quality, and I found my people, if you will, and a space that I've really loved. And so I moved out of that advertising company and went to a company called Cabbage, where I uh, started their quality department and grew that there. And I had moved on to an enterprise company where I was transforming their 80 plus QA organization that was local, state based, and offshore. And then after that, and I had a couple of hops in there, but after that, I found my way to Calendly, where we're building a world-class quality engineering department, and I'm super excited about that. I also have 3 children. I have a 7-year-old son and 3-year-old twin girls. Um, Funny story though, as being a woman, when you talk about maternity, when I had my son, I was working at a startup that had long, crazy hours. I was director of QA there. I was leading the team, and I didn't think that I could do it. I didn't think that I could be a mom and lead this team. And I wound up taking a step back and going to Turner for a year as an individual contributor. And the worst thing that was, it wasn't the worst decision because I spent the year kind of being relaxed. But at the end, when things started to settle down with my son, and just kind of, we used to go into that shift from new mom world, I was bored. I was so bored. And I was running circles around the entire team, just trying to find things to do. And I was like, I can't, this isn't what I want to do. And I said, no, I can be a mom, I could be a woman, and I can be a leader. And that was a shift for me, and a point in my career where I knew that I could understand. I started to understand my strengths and speak to those strengths and lean into those strengths. Yeah, so that's a little bit about me.